Jay Massey is a full-time real estate investor. He's an entrepreneur.
He also teaches people how to find deals, raise capital for real estate investments.
Meeting Jay Massey in person, you'd think he's just a regular guy. He's got jeans and a t-shirt on and a pair of sneakers. But he's built up a multi-million-dollar empire.
I hope you do have an empty notebook because it's going home filled.
Jay gives back so much value that I've never seen.
Now, at this moment, when I'm looking at the kitchen, things are going through my head.
You want to be friends with him, and he treats you like you're the only person in the room, even though it's for the benefit of everybody.
This is how, when you ask yourself, how does Jay do it? This is how.
He tells people that they have to take action, and they have to take action now. I took the action, and the results have paid off.
What happens when the marketplace understands who we are and how we go out there? All right, everybody, how you doing? Hopefully things are going well. Today is, what is today? Today's Tuesday. That's right. Tuesday, November 10th. Nonetheless, for those of you who I might be meeting for the first time, welcome. My name is Jay, CEO of CashFlowDiary. And what we do is we help you build cash flow, specifically using real estate. And we tend to focus, especially right now, on the short-term rental, vacation rental, Airbnb business, whatever you currently call it, game. That's like our thing. That's what we do. That's why we do what we do. Because one of the things that I think many of us have learned or relearned or deepened our conviction on this lately is that having the ability to control not only the amount of income, but specifically where our income comes from, that it comes to us in a certain way, that we don't have what I like to call a single point of failure. When it comes to our income, we don't have a single point of failure, so that you're able to continually, add to it, control it, manipulate it as needed to be able to adjust to the marketplace demand. That's what it is to own a business and or be an entrepreneur in any way, shape, or form. And in this case, our business is helping you understand your business and building it and absolutely crushing it at the end of the day. All right. So we've been doing this for a number of years, as many of you know, in terms of helping individuals, talking, answering questions, all that good stuff. And we're going to continue to do so today. We are going to do something, however, something that we have not done in a while. And we're going to do so in a slightly different fashion than I would say we normally do it. Now, if you saw the title of today and you're like, oh, cool, what does this mean? And or you were hoping that somehow this was going to have something to do with the recent election in the United States, I can tell you right now, you will be disappointed because the way that I am using the word vote is to indicate where you choose to place your actions, where you choose to focus on. Because to me, that is also a vote, right? It's no different than when a customer chooses a particular business. That is a vote for that business because they are choosing to give that business their service. So what you are choosing to give your time to in this particular case as you build an asset is, to me, also a vote. Now, we will be using the iPad today. We will be using lots of websites today. We will be doing one of the things, like I said, that we have not done in quite some time. We have not done in a while a listing review. So what I have is that I have a listing from a relatively new student. And what I will be doing is breaking down this particular listing to assist them, but ultimately you as well, from doing the things that we already know and have covered many times that, just don't work, right? So, and I titled this particular session this way for a very specific reason. A number of times, individuals, people have contacted us and contact us still to this day. And I am grateful for that. I'm glad that you take on the challenge of building something as opposed to just sitting around and hoping that, somehow someone's going to bail you out, whatever that might be. I'm glad that you do something, because doing something is better than doing obviously nothing. And with that being said, sometimes what happens is we receive inquiries or questions or ideas from individuals who have started ahead or just started in the same industry or something similar. What I mean by that is we didn't invent buy and hold real estate. We did not invent short-term rentals. We did not invent any of those things. Okay. What we have done, however, is demonstrated, practiced, and leveraged the information, the data sets, the everything, the everyday practice of going out there in the marketplace today under all the same conditions and actually executing a business. And more importantly, for years, almost a decade now, executing and helping others execute their business, meaning not just doing it, but being able to teach and instruct and help other people, not just tell you about it. See, there's a difference when you go to, I don't know, some sort of learning or educational institution, because yes, is it important to learn from individuals who know what they're talking about? Certainly. But I think it's also important to learn from individuals who have done what you are talking about. There's a different weight that to me that I assign to that information. And to so much so that I will often say and have said and will say again that here it is. Here's the short version. Imitate before you innovate. That's the easiest way I can put it. Oftentimes we want to take our creative ability and we have an idea. We want to go and execute something. And I think that's great. And we should. Yet then we start looking for specialized knowledge or individuals who have been there, individuals who can help us and are willing. And then we want to change the recipe, right? So now what I'm saying is, if grandma, the one that makes the cake that you like, and she always makes it for you on your birthday, the one pinching your cheeks and all that stuff, you know what I'm talking about. If grandma makes the cake, would you ever consider telling grandma how to make that cake? Like ever? Would that make any sense whatsoever? The answer is no. If you have a grandma like mine, the answer is no. There's a little beep before that, but you know what I'm saying? The answer is no. And because grandma's cake has been proven, you know what it's going to taste like. It has its own certain ways. So imitate grandma's cake before you try to innovate grandma's cake and make it and add your whatever you want to add to it. See, some of you are coming up on Thanksgiving dinner here in the United States, and you know that there's a relative or two that you're hoping that might cook something, right? Even if they just have to leave it on the doorstep so that, no COVID spreading and all this other stuff. Even if they do that, you're like, please make that sweet potato pumpkin pie, something, please, yams. Woo, man. Sorry, getting all, okay. Speaking of which, someone tag Latanya Keys. Latanya, I would like some cobbler, please. Whatever I got to do, if I got to just, drive through window, drop it out your window, whatever it takes, some cobbler, just a simple request. And anyway, what it comes down to is I would never, ever dare talk to my grandma or tell Latanya how to make that cobbler. By the way, it's good if you didn't pick up on that. And yet when we're starting or when we're building a business, one of the things to understand is that there are certain things that we need to unlearn that we may have held as true, but are the very things that are in the way that prevent us from making the progress that we seek. And then the individual who is holding out the torch telling you, hey, go this way, you don't go because either you're afraid, and what's worse is that you're afraid to even admit that you're afraid. So you say nothing and you just sit still and don't go, or you halfway go. You don't really commit to going. And committing and going is important. Getting that process started. You're never going to know all the steps. I did not start this year knowing that COVID-19 was coming and therefore prepared for it 4 years ago when we first started specifically short-term rentals, or more specifically than that, educating individuals on short-term rentals. We had to learn it as we go, period. And that's exactly my point. That is the rules. Those are just the rules. That's just something you agree to. The moment you say, I am an entrepreneur, you are agreeing to unknown. You are agreeing to making decisions with uncertain outcomes, simply because that's how the cake gets made. Now, there are principles you can follow, and that's where we come in to assist with that, to help with some time and well-worn, proven principles to be able to make it through whatever comes your way. Now, learning expert tools or having access to expert tools is one thing, right? But more importantly, not just having access to expert tools, but learning to use them expertly makes all the difference, which takes time. So grandma can definitely share with you the recipe. She can tell you where she gets the ingredients from, and you can look at that recipe, understand it. You can read her writing. You can get the same ingredients and still mess up the cake. Because it takes practice, because it takes trial and error. It takes being willing to fail at something so that you can learn from that experience and then eventually get better at it, right? It's not something that happens in a weekend or overnight, because that's not how humans, you, me, we learn. We don't learn that way. We never have. There's nothing you learned, quote unquote, overnight. Nothing. You've learned things in succession and have compounded on previous learnings, right? Because you learned to read, you therefore then can learn this next thing. And because you learned that thing, maybe it's algebra, math, or just simple addition, then you can add that to the next thing. And that all takes time. So when we're holding ourselves to an expectation of what it is that we're going to be able to accomplish, remembering these things, like I am suggesting, is paramount. Now, I said all this to say that I started this is that the ignorance of, or what did I call it? The ignorance of something. The price of ignorance. That's right. The price of ignorance. What is the price of ignorance? Now, many of you, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I don't really know. You've been paying attention, I hope, to some degree, to things that have been going on in various parts of the marketplace. So I'm going to use a quick example to give you a quantitative number as it relates to the price of ignorance. In fact, what ignorance may, I'm not saying it has, nor am I calling you, and don't think of ignorance as a pejorative. Think of it as stuff you don't know, right? Because, and here's the phrase, someone write this in the chat. Remember how I said that there are things that we have to unlearn. Yes, unlearn, because we don't realize that those are the things that are in the way. Here is one of them, or at least that was one of them for me. Have you ever heard the phrase, what you don't know won't hurt you? Do me a favor, put a little hand emoji in the chat if that's you. What you don't know won't hurt you. Have you ever heard, has someone ever said that to you, and then you, for whatever reason, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, who knows, but you accepted it as true for a small amount of time, no matter how small a time, but you accepted that as the case. What you don't know won't hurt you, so you just moved on to the whatever the next thing might have been, right? Awesome. Except it's not true. What you don't know can, has, and always will hurt you. And in this particular case, I'm talking in a financial sense, okay? Because it ends up costing you. Now, you don't necessarily feel the cost I'm going to talk about today. It's not like someone reached into your wallet and or bank account and or purse and or whatever, wherever you keep whatever you consider valuable, and pulled money out. That's not quite what happened. So we don't feel it. We don't wake up feeling like someone stole something from us. But what I'm saying is, the more you can position this idea as something having been stolen from you, the better. Because how would you respond when something is stolen from you? Well, you'd want it back. You'd want to do something about it. You wouldn't go, it's okay. You just, no. You wouldn't go, it happens. And you would do something about it, is my point. So I want to share with you a couple of opportunities that have happened and are indeed happening this particular year right now that some of you may have taken advantage of, but understand all I'm trying to do is illustrate this concept. Okay. All right. Let's switch here. Boom, boom. Oh, I also need to make sure I'm not your tax guy, financial guy, none of those things. I'm just trying to illustrate this concept. I am using this company, MoneyGram, and its stock price to illustrate a concept. The concept is understanding opportunity cost. That's really the name. That is the technical name for what it is that we are talking about right now. So someone write that in the chat, put it in your notes, do whatever you got to do. Just remember it, because this will pay you, maybe not from this stock or whatever, but you'll catch my point. My point is simple. Today, and actually this week, for whatever reason, and I don't know the reason, but for all intents and purposes, when you look at something like this, I mean, it's just a simple concept, right? Buy low, sell high. I didn't invent that. Okay, that's my point. I want to establish that that's not mine, but that's a concept you have heard before that you may have even tried. Nor am I suggesting that stock is the only way to do any of these things, but this is a tangible way to help you. When you look at this today, some of you, if this is your first time, you look at it, you go, wow, $6.46. Yeah, I don't know a lot about stock, but let me ask you this. Have you ever heard of stocks being higher than this? Probably. You've also heard of stocks being lower than this. Also true. And yet, when you look at this, if this is your first time, you're like, oh, cool. That's great. Maybe, you know what? Maybe I should buy some. And nor am I saying you should or shouldn't. I'm not saying that. Remember, this is just about the educational concept. But let me ask you this. If this is currently $6.46, and for all intents and purposes, before you stock nerds start talking about what you got to look at and all that stuff, that is not the point of this. Okay. If you could buy this same thing for $3 and then sell it today for $6.46, would that be good? Yes or yes? Just simply type a yes in the chat. The answer is yes, that would be good. Here's where the opportunity cost was. The opportunity cost was months ago when the price was low enough over here. See, this is where the opportunity cost was. The opportunity cost was over here in, I'll just say March, right? Yeah, March. You remember March. Maybe you don't want to remember March. I know there are parts of March I want to forget. And when you look at it, you go, oh, okay, got it. Well, of course, if I knew then in March that this would go up, of course I would have bought it then. But that's not how opportunity works. You can only act in the present. And was there risk in March? Yes. Was there guarantees in March? No. Was it any more clear today than it was? No. My point is, you still would have to come to the same decision. And it's just simple. Back here was an opportunity, right? But I'm not saying that this is, again, the only type of opportunity you've ever been presented, but I am saying that there is a cost to you for not knowing it. There's a cost to every opportunity that you do not recognize. And most of us have been trained to recognize only one type of opportunity, and that is spelled J-O-B, period. That is what we've been trained to recognize. My job, CashFlowDiary, what we do is help you recognize other types of opportunities so that you can unlock that genius that is inside of you and express it differently and learn from your own mistakes. Okay. So, for example, in this situation, what I'm just simply illustrating is way back here, if you knew it was going to go to 6, of course you would have bought something. Everyone says that because that's what you would have done, but you did not know. But you had to be willing to have taken the risk before. You had to be willing to exercise faith. Period. It doesn't overcome all of your objections, but you had to be willing to exercise faith and act upon what you believed, and be willing to take calculated risks. That's what this was. Okay. So now though, and when you put that in that context and you look at $6, you're like, oh dude, I wish I could have bought back in. I don't know if I want to buy now. Right. So suddenly it becomes a question mark again. Right. But yet next week, if it goes to 12, then cool. You're like, dang it, I should have bought it at 6 and I know it. Do you see how this can be circular and continually cost you until you, not me, you decide to let ignorance no longer be your greatest expense? See, many people complain about taxes, and I hear you, and regardless of whatever the administration wants to say, I will tell you why taxes are an issue. It's an issue because you may be ignorant of 3 words used in this order by the Internal Revenue Service. It is adjusted gross income. Understanding how to work with your adjusted gross income can help you tremendously when it comes to managing the expense known as taxes. See, there are many ways to manage that expense. Just like you manage your electricity, your food, and everything else that you do, there's a way to manage taxes. And it starts with how and the type of income that you actually earn is the first way to manage your taxes. Because not every dollar is taxed equally. Men may be created equal, but how dollars are earned, no, different story. So my point is simple. What you don't know can, has, and always will hurt you. Which then gets me to the next point. Oftentimes, when we get to the point of understanding that there's something that we do not know, we begin to seek knowledge. We begin to seek information. We begin to want to just educate ourselves. That's typically the words or phrases that we'll use, which is great. That is a step in the right direction. Here's the challenge. What we fail to do often is to get access to that which will help us understand what to do with the information once we have it. Simple as that. Now, I'm going to illustrate that shortly with this idea right here, and then we will get into some more understanding when it comes to the short-term rental listing that we're going to review. This is it right here, DIIP. Some of you have seen these letters before, some of you not so much. Either way, here we go. DIP. That's really how I tend to look at this. No, it is not spelled correctly. I am aware of that. It does not matter. Here we go. Because what ends up happening is we start with that missing. It's something we suddenly now know we don't know something. So what we go and begin to look for is, either some data, some statistics, but specifically what we end up finding usually is actually information. Got it? So here we go. So what we usually end up finding is information. Once we found information, we have also been trained to wait to be told what to do. And this is where the breakdown occurs. This is where the breakdown occurs right here, because we go and get data. We know how to do that. We go and get information, and we often know how to do that. In fact, today, getting information is called Google it, right? Man, to have a company whose name becomes a verb one day. Anyway, that's what we do. We Google it. And I just simply ask you, it's a very simple question. Is there a lack of information? No, is the answer. Okay. There is no lack of information. You may lack information, but there isn't a lack of information, right? And for most of us, in fact, if you have the capacity to watch and see and hear me right now, you don't even have a lack of access to information, simply because, well, you're here, right? And that's my point. But that's also where we stop. And unfortunately, we've been trained to place economic value on just knowing information. Just knowing information. That's how we typically talk about it. Let me say it differently. For those of you who have your bachelor's, master's, and PhDs and other degrees, etc., what we often do is we just put economic value, pay for packages of information, and then falsely believe, okay, now that I have this information, I am ready. I can go. I can now go produce value, right? And that becomes the challenge, is that we end up valuing just knowing information. So what does that mean? What does that look like? It looks like, well, phrases like I'm done learning. I know that. Very, by the way, most dangerous 3 words ever. I know that. Whew. And that is where then we go try to start a business or try to do something else, or we run into the limit of the system that we're currently been subscribed to, right? You've been subscribed to the system of go to school, get grades, get a job for quite a while, right? And you even have the notification bell turned on that one. And what I'm saying is maybe it's time to unsubscribe from that channel, because the breakdown is right there. It's where the information is not taken to the next step. And that next step is what is critical, because it then must be interpretation. Yes, interpretation. AKA, what do I do with it? What do I do now that I know? That is what I'm saying. What do you do now that you know X, Y, and Z? How does knowing X, Y, and Z benefit you or someone you know, or etc.? Or what can you do with this information to turn it into a benefit in some way, shape, and or form? Again, what you don't know can, has, and always will hurt you. And sometimes the things you don't know is a perspective, right? Is a perspective. Here's why this is important. You've never been trained to pay for a perspective. That's not you. Therefore, you may not assign value to having perspective on certain situations, right? Remember what I said earlier? In March, we were looking at that particular stock, and yes, it was below below $2, right? For a while. And today it's 646. And this is not like a tiny company. Okay. Many of you may have even used some of their services a lot, sometimes unknowingly, and even recently. But my point is, did you know? Was that even an option for you? And was it an option because you don't have access to it? Or was it an option because you were just ignorant of the opportunity? And again, not ignorant as a pejorative, simply you didn't know, right? Because you may have had information, you know about a stock market, you know about stocks. But if you did not take any action with them at that particular time, then based upon what you knew, do you get to therefore then benefit from the thing? The answer is no. So this is one of the reasons why I say things like the best lead generation, because people ask me this all the time. What is your best lead generation, Jay? I can't afford ads and all this other stuff, which is maybe true. That's a temporary condition. But what is the best lead generation source? I love it. It is simply the news. Why? Because their job is to tell me everything that's broken and why. And they do so multiple times per day on all kinds of channels. And I don't care if you like CNBC, CNN, NBC, Fox, Breitbart, whatever you look at, everybody's talking about whatever's broken or whatever they consider to be broken. And therefore, anyone who also subscribes to those same ideas is open to a solution. And if you happen to have a solution that is a business for whatever that problem is, you have an opportunity to go out there and make it work. Period. And it's free. So just pick one. Pick which problem you want to solve. But understanding that the information that is given to us from the news is not interpreted for you and I as to what you therefore then need to do. That's what the opinion column is for, by the way. That is what some people do with the opinion. The editorial, that's where that is. Now, that's not to say that that person's opinion and or editorial is something you actually should do. Because maybe it's not their business of helping you build a business, right? Here's my next point. Learning to receive information and then developing the ability to interpret it into an action is actually known, you ready for this? The process of education. Think about that for a second. You're like, wait a minute. If that's not what I've been doing, and we call what we've been through an education system, then yeah, exactly right. You're starting to make some connections. This is actually the process of education, because education has to do with the root word educe, E-D-U-C-E, meaning to draw out of. You are the ones, me, you, we're the ones responsible for drawing out of the information that is in front of us, what to do with it. But yet, when was the last time you've been taught? Where am I going with this? I'm going all the way to that listing review because I got to help you understand all of these things, because people want the shortcut, silver bullet. There is no silver bullet to learning how to master drawing information out of, or interpretation out of information. There is no super shortcut and or secret. However, there is a tried, true, repeatable method for doing so. It's literally apprenticeship. See, apprenticeship, there are certain trades that understand this. You don't become I think it's master electrician just by studying a bunch of books, passing a test and go, woohoo, I did it. You don't become a real estate appraiser just by passing a test. You do not become a skilled physician without first going through some sort of residency and side by side training. You don't become a skilled cook without usually someone not just sharing information with you, but you watching how your technique and what you do and all of these things. That it's been that way forever. Okay. Will always be that way. But again, were we taught to go, hey, that's where we should be placing the value so that we can actually achieve the result that we're after? Probably not. In fact, we often beat that up, but that's a whole nother story. And my point here is for most of us, that's exactly what we need. We need someone to take us under their wing and show us what to do given our specific use case and circumstances in this current environment, not what used to work, not just more information about what can be a solution, but how to apply it every day to your situation. Apprenticeship matters, makes all the difference in the world. What I do find interesting, though, is that even though we have never learned how to process data and turn it into information, and then interpretation, aka what to do with it, action. Even though we've never learned that, for whatever reason, we've told ourselves multiple times, oh, I can do it, figure it out. And we do or don't, and kinda, but sorta. And yet, oftentimes when we're presented with an opportunity to learn from an apprentice with someone, we don't, for whatever reason. And I hear you. And to be clear, I'm not talking about just getting books and tapes. There's more to it. If there wasn't more to it, I'd have nothing to talk about today. If there wasn't more to it, then all the problems would be solved already, because Google has given all of us access to the information we need. So it's not even that. It is understanding how to take a tool, any tool, to create then the solution, and learning how to do that over time, expertly, and becoming better at it, which by default means your association, that's the word, association with things like failure must be modified, usually drastically. Your association with things like interest must often be modified. Your association with things like debt and the concept of how the economy works in some cases. And sometimes your association with things like taxes, all of these things take time. And if it took you this long to learn what you do understand, why on earth do you think you can unlearn it in a weekend or a month or whatever? Especially when you may not put the consistent effort, energy, and time into actually understanding it. See, this is one of the challenges that I face all the time. And I know that our coaches and our teammates also face it, because we've had the privilege of being in the real estate space for quite some time, and being able to do short-term rentals as we do, aka leasing someone else's property, and then finding a new customer to then give it to them for a shorter period of time, aka repackaging time, just like people do with vending machines. Instantly, people go, oh, I know all about that. And then they'll start using terms like, oh, that you mean subleasing. No, it's actually not what I mean. But that is what deceives people into thinking that they already know. So they don't assign any value to understanding that it's the nuances and the mastery of the concept that make the difference, and why it actually works. That's it. See, the double-edged sword with short-term rentals is that they're easy to do. They're easy to see. The proof of concept is right there for all of us. That's actually one of the things that's exciting about it. But at the same time, there are concepts like TCO, total cost of ownership, that must come into play for you, me, we, any of us to build a business that is sustainable. Here's my point. Many people have exited as in left the business of short-term rentals, but they did so because of what they did not know, what they did not understand, what they did not necessarily have access to, because they did not take the time, did not feel that they needed to actually master their profession and business and what they do. So they didn't take the time to do that, so they just left. Why am I bringing this up now and in this context? Because again, it's what you maybe not, didn't know that continues to cost you. See, I was able to put a number to it with the stock, right? Earlier, you could have bought 100 shares, 1,000 shares, 2,000, 10,000 shares back in March, which as of right now could be worth as much as 4 times what you paid. And I just simply ask, would that make a difference right now? Shake your head, yes. Even if it's only a 0.00001% difference inside of your income, it's still a difference, my friend, period. And it's only because of what you did not know, okay? One of the things people do not know is that hotels, travel, restaurants, everything is having trouble. Hospitality is on in some cases last legs, and it is not easy. And was March, April, and May absolutely tragic? Yes, absolutely. I do not hide from that. Did we need to get creative to figure things out? Absolutely. Why would we do so? Simply because the principles always make sense. Meaning, if more people are going to leave the business and we were already short supply, so supply is leaving and we were already short supply pre-COVID, everything else remaining the same means that, hey, guess what? We are going to be even shorter of supply on the other side. That's number one. Number two, because remember, data to information. So data, because COVID is what it is, whether you want to wear a mask or not, that is not what this is about. It's about understanding the problem. Because it's had the effect it has, because the economy has gone through what it has gone through. Ask yourself this question: is there still a need for temporary housing? Shake your head. Yes. Do the customers come from somewhere else? Absolutely. Did that take time to understand, to learn, and to begin to dissect? Absolutely. Can it be done? Has it been done? Do we teach it? Yeah, all day long. That's what we do. Does it make sense? Well, I'll answer that by showing you this. One of the things to look at is just, and again, I could do this all day long, but people ask me, does it make sense to start short-term rentals right now? No, it made sense 6 months ago in March. Okay. And yes, it makes sense now too. Okay. And my point is just simple. While yes, you see some negative numbers and some are more negative than others, just because it's negative doesn't even mean that it's bad. Okay. It doesn't mean it's great right now. That's for sure. Because yes, there are other factors that go into it. Are people booking? Yes. Are they making reservations? Certainly. But my point is, I suspect there's a lot more green on a chart like this than you suspected. I bet there's a lot more green. And again, what you don't know can, has, and always will hurt you. Am I saying, oh man, don't start anything in California or what is that, Washington? Or I have no idea what that state is. That I don't know what that is. I know the -2 is Minnesota, but I have no idea. Is that North and South Dakota? Yeah, that's what that is. So North Dakota, or is that Nebraska? I think, and that's Louisiana, Illinois. This is like a impromptu test on geography. I think that's Pennsylvania. And I think that one is New York. And I have no idea what those other ones are. When I get over to those small states, and if you're watching from one of those states, I'm sorry, I don't remember. Okay. And my point is, no, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that there's still opportunity on the table. There always has been opportunity on the table. And it's because you have only taken the information and not learned how to go to interpretation. You've not learned how to follow the recipe and to recognize opportunity, which is the purpose of education, is to help you draw that stuff out and to be able to recognize opportunity. And that because you and I have been traditionally trained to recognize opportunity spelled J-O-B, that therefore then is what causes a lack of understanding and why you respond the way you do when markets go down and are up, or something looks like it's tragic and you're like, what do you do? Right? And I'm just submitting for your acceptance that it's time to unlearn the things, the ways of being. I'm submitting for your acceptance that it's time for you to turn over that new leaf, try a new idea, because clearly your ideas have not been working. And yes, I'm very directly suggesting that you accept some of the ones that we have submitted for your acceptance today. Why? Because they work. For no other reason. And then ultimately, I'm suggesting that you, get access to the recipe, follow the recipe, and imitate before you innovate, right? Make the next time you're trying a recipe, anyone's recipe, for whatever it is that you're trying to bake or create, wait until you earn 6, maybe even 7 figures with it before you try to change it. Does that make sense? because then you will have the experience to understand the wisdom of why certain recipes are done certain ways. You're like, but that's more expensive to do it that way. Well, there's a reason that it's done that way right now. There's a reason that, you know what I find funny from time to time on an iron, how it says those caution warning, maybe hot labels. Like there's a reason that label is there. It used to not be there. And now it needs to be there because, yeah, exactly. Someone didn't know. And then it became a problem. Caution, maybe I find that interesting, right? So, but yet if you wanted to start your own business manufacturing irons, you're gonna, the cost of that label, that warning label, I can't do that. I just won't do it. I'll do it without the warning label. No, you won't. You will pay that price one way or another. So put the warning label there is really what I'm saying, right? Just because you've earned money in a thing doesn't mean you know how to do the thing. Sometimes it's just, honestly, you just stood in the way. I mean, yeah, you were present. That doesn't mean you were good. And we are entering in a space to where now it's time for you to be good and not just present. So with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say two things. One, some of you, maybe you like some of the things that I've said. Maybe you absolutely hate and all you've done is a bunch of thumbs down. Fine. At least I helped you to make a decision and you took some action. So I consider that a victory. And others of you, you're like, hey, I'm kind of attracted to some of the things that you're saying. At the bottom of the screen, what you've been seeing scroll by over and over and over again is a link to an application. That application is there specifically because, hey, if you like to build cash flow, then cool, do so with us and do so now. Fill out that application. Why? Simply because when you go through that, your thorough, complete answer will be the qualification for having a consultation with us so that we can help you begin your journey into building cash flow using short-term rentals and understanding our 3-phase system. By the way, phase 3, which I know everybody wants, is, hey, how can I buy apartment buildings and cell phone towers and commercial property? Totally understood. That's phase 3. Okay, let's get to phase 1 first and teach you the recipe. Okay, let's get you through some of those basics so that you can produce predictable results. Because here's what happens. You hear the idea, the concept of Airbnb and VRBO and all these places. They're great. You're like, cool. Well, I can just get a place and throw stuff in there and put it together. And then here's what happens. You wonder, why isn't it renting? Or it used to rent, but I don't know what's going on. Or man, my vacancy is very, very high. And but I don't understand because I see these other people and they're still doing something. And you run into a friend and suddenly they're like, yeah, I'm getting 5 more units. I was talking to someone today who is opening, I think it's 10 units, Dallas, Texas, if I'm not mistaken, and has an opportunity for more. I wrote an offer today for a 12-unit building where I've been operating as a short-term rental operator for 2.5 years because it is now time. And I am in the process of getting more locations because that was Saturday, Sunday. Anyway, a couple days ago, because the opportunities are there, right? And understanding that is everything for you, for your legacy, for your family. And that's why you're going to fill out the application. And so that you know, every answer is 100% required. And I would encourage you to put in thorough, complete answers. So take some time, grab some coffee, but get through it. And just go to cashflowdiary.com/application, get it done, and get it started. Now, with that, let's look at these 2 listings because oftentimes we will get emails from random individuals and say, hey, how come I'm only getting $5 a day or 50? I put the price at $100. I put the price at $20. I did this, I did that. Why isn't it working? Or why isn't it increasing in value? How come I'm not getting any reservations? Now, here's my point. In order to produce a particular result, aka grandma's cake, and you just send grandma a message saying, hey, grandma, Here's the cake I made. You can't taste it. I didn't tell you what ingredients I put in it. You don't have access to any of the actual video or documentation of how I put the cake together. But can you tell me why it tastes bad, please? Grandma's going to say, no, honey, I can't help you. I need you to follow the recipe. And if you follow the recipe, this is what happens. Or next time, how about you come on over and I'll show you how to do it. And you're like, but grandma, I got to get on a plane and all this other stuff. Well, honey, I don't know how else to show you the cake. I mean, you want the cake. I want you to make the cake. I mean, it would be great, but you got to come. I don't have another way to do it. What I'm saying here is the short-term rental game has its own recipes. So when you guys or someone sends in a message like that, we love it because it knows that it tells us that you're engaged, that you're out there, you're doing something, and understand that we don't have access to everything that we need. And there is no one silver bullet answer because it is not always change the price, right? It is not always, well, I don't use TVs, so that's your problem. It is not always that. Now, there are some universal things, and that's exactly what I'm about to go over and go through at this exact moment in time. That's what I'm going to do. So as I do that, take some notes and just understand that I can't go through everything. I'm going to do my best with the time that I have to take this particular listing and show you some general things that will help when done, when following all of the rest of the recipe too. So just because you correct one thing doesn't suddenly mean, boom, I got everything else together and I'm able to then be successful. Okay. So you can't just make one change. You have to follow the recipe from the beginning down to where did she get the ingredients from? All right. I think I've said that enough. Let's do this. All right. So this is a listing. I believe it is in Florida. And so first of all, I am just going to, and I am just going to start from this page and share directly, very clearly, the things that are missing just from this page. This is my first time looking at this. I've never talked to the actual operator. And again, do not be confused by the fact that there are reviews or that someone has earned and or made money at something as if they know what they're doing. And that's not to negate their experience, the risk, and all those things. They have those things. That's great. And when it comes to mastery, sequence matters. Okay. So first and foremost, for those of you out there wondering and looking for some good ideas, the first thing that anyone sees when they're searching, right? Depending on how they search. And again, this can get platform specific. I'm gonna focus on Airbnb for the time being because there's just too many things. But the first and foremost thing is they're going to see your feature photo and then the title. Both of these, feature photo being the one that's biggest here, and they're going to see the title. And that's going to show up, let me show you, something like this. So if I went to Airbnb and all I did was just type in Florida and hit search, it's going to look like, and then let me get rid of this just for the sake of illustration here. That's what it's going to look like. You're just going to see feature photo and title. That's what you're going to see. And anyway, I'm not even going to take the time to break these down, but these have issues too. All right. So here's my point. If this is the two things you're going to see is this photo, that's what you're going to see first, okay? And this title, and it's being, so the first decision someone is making when they're looking at your listing is, will I click on, which one will I click on? Because I can't look at all of them. I'm not going to look at all of them. That's why they do all this filtering and all that other stuff. I'm not going to do that. I'm only going to click on a few of them. Which one am I going to click on first? Write this down. Your job is to be that first click, which is the first problem, is that most people don't optimize to even get that first click, which is why It's the number one thing that's missing in so many ways, and why you are not getting the revenue you want is because, again, you don't think the sequence of your photos matter. Which photo should go first? You don't think the title matters, but it does. And when someone says to you, hey, let's sit down and talk about your title for about 2 hours, you're like, why? I've got a title. I'm good. I've already made money, so I don't need help with my title. What I need, okay. Do you hear where I'm coming from? And this is my point. So I'm gonna keep making that. So what am I saying in short is that I haven't even gotten to photographic technique, but I can tell you that the sequence of these photos are off. That's the first issue. The sequence of the photos are off. The title is 100% off. Both of those things automatically mean you're not winning first click until you're the only option, meaning leftovers. That means the best guests have already chosen where they want to stay. You get what's left, whatever that might be. Russian roulette, random roulette, reservation roulette, whatever you want to call it, that's what you get when you do this. Okay? But hey, does that mean you won't make money? No, it doesn't. It means you might, but it might not be as much as you could. It might not be the type of guest you want. But hey, you did it. Congratulations. You saved money by doing it your way, or did you lose opportunity because you did not understand, right? So understand the sequence of your photos matter. Okay, so I'm gonna click show all photos real fast. All right, second, security matters. Photos of the external of a location, really bad idea, because now you're advertising to people. Hey, guess what we do here, right? And how the photos are taken matters. This first one, I'm kind of perplexed because it looks like a cell phone photo. It is off in so many ways. For photographic technique, it's even out of focus. And yes, it sounds like it doesn't matter, but it does. So I'm just going to go through this really quickly. So we've got photographic issues all throughout. So I'm gonna do my best to not nitpick that to death, but a lot of them look like low resolution cell phone photos that are taken without a rectilinear lens, meaning you probably used a fisheye or something, and because you're getting these concave, convex walls going on. Your walls are not slanted. At least I hope the wall isn't slanted. If it is, you probably should talk to your builder. But that's a problem, is really what I am communicating to you, is that the walls can't be slanted like that. You want to represent the place in such a way that they can likely find it. Plus, we're from an operational standpoint. While yes, I appreciate your decorativeness with what you've got going on here, but when we're talking about being efficient and being able to scale, we've got to stay away from patterns with certain linens, because then it gets really challenging. Because yes, I have had guests say, where's that one particular blanket? Because that's what I saw in the photo. And I'm like, oh my God, that's a problem. Because what if that one particular blanket is dirty? Now you've disappointed them, which in and of itself, that's not going to cost you the reservation, but it will cost you the review. And that's really important. So there's a strong issue with photographic technique, especially with the concave, convex lenses, cell phones going on. I have no idea why in a short-term rental you would do this, because this would be a challenge to manage, unless it's, I mean, even if it is your primary residence that you're renting out sometimes, okay, great. Or if it's a secondary residence, this would just have to go. Period. Too many things. No. And no. Unless you are trying to create a particular experience intentionally, but this does not look intentional to me at all. It looks very haphazard. Remember this, for those of you who are like, but books, and they might want to, and this, that, and the other. Stop it. Remember, the first decision is, who do you want to serve? Okay. So now what is also coming clear is that we have design issues. I don't know who designed the place. I don't know if it was designed, and therefore we have an issue there. Okay, so we've got to work through this. So what does that mean? That means part of understanding and making your business scalable, systematic, and something that someone wants to experience is to create a system around how they are built, which is AKA a uniform design, which I am not sensing and or seeing. Because when you begin to put all of, okay, oh man. So we've got the wrong kind of lighting here. And that's why white begins to look yellow, is because you have a white balance issue. I don't know what this little thing is over here, this bowl thing on the corner, but I don't know if that's supposed to be there or not, but that's interesting. So these things begin to communicate, I don't care. That's the problem, right? And that's not what you want to communicate. Well, and again, you can choose to continue to communicate it, but understand the consequence is you will not get first click. You will not get first reservation. You don't get first choice. There are many things that are missing, right? So let's keep going here, because again, security violations with the front door. There's no reason to have this photo at all. I'm glad it's there, but this gather, eat, laugh, I think is what it says. Wonderful, but no. Because that's not adding to the story. When in your photos, you want to tell the story. Remember, a picture is worth 1,000 words. What are your photos saying? Like, really? From a security standpoint, this TV needs to be on the wall. And you're like, how does that make a difference? Again, how the presentation of the thing makes all the difference. I'm assuming you are not serving alcohol, or if you are, please have the license. Because this is problematic on so many levels. I can't even begin to go there with that. Oh my. Okay. Why is this? There's a stray chair over here. That's really strange to me. There's just okay. So we've got, in general, there isn't a uniform design. So there's not even a clear message. The photos were clearly done either with the cell phone or at low resolution. They were done, looks like handheld in a lot of cases, which is, again, in and of itself is its own challenge. They distort the perspective. For example, here's another example of what I'm talking about. This is a very distorted perspective of the room, which, okay, is great in Hollywood and when you're trying to tell a story with a movie, but this is not the story you want to tell. Plus, we have way too much ceiling in this particular shot. Unless you're trying to highlight the ceiling fan, which I don't think you are. This is part of the challenge. So, there's no clear target market here at all. I don't know who you are serving. And the answer isn't anyone. But that's how we naturally think. We go, I'll take anyone, just anybody. No, you want a specific someone, and you need to communicate to that specific someone in your design, in your title, in every photo, in every message. You need to address their concerns, because this is not for you, it is for them. What does that mean? That means that's why we have challenges with the title. That's why we have challenges with the photos. I don't need to go much further than to say that most people were not, like I said, you're going to get what's left over. And if that's what you want, then great, fine. If you want to do this from a professional level, we got lots of things that can be changed. And this is to say, because I know what some of you are thinking, oh, cool. Well, then here's my shortcut. All I got to do is get better photos and I'll be good. And you'd also be wrong. Photos are a part of it. They're actually the last part of it, but they are a part of it for sure in order to make this whole thing come together and to work. So I don't know if this has, you know what, let me see. I'm gonna go a little bit deeper, a little bit further, because I suspect I'm gonna find some more things. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. I suspect I'm gonna find a few more things. And okay, got it. Yep. All right. So again, what is that? Okay, cool. So 4 bed. Okay, got it. So here's very clearly, very easily, I can illustrate this. It says we're able to have 8 guests. Okay, 8 guests, which is great. Love it. Awesome. So let's go back to the photos real fast. Let's go to the kitchen ones. How many cups do y'all see? I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is 6 8? Nope. Let's keep going. Nope. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Here's the dining room table. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 places to sit and eat at the table, and then 1 stray chair in the background, which even including the stray chair is not 8. Okay, let's keep going. You don't even have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 6 of this cup, 4 of that one, 2 of this one. I think I'm making my point as we go through. And then, did anyone see plates ever? Forks? I mean, I'm just asking. And here's why I'm saying it and saying it that way. Missing these details creates questions. And because it creates a question, let's pretend that they were vibing on this right here and ready to go. But because you're missing certain things, just like I easily pointed out, maybe that's a party of 8, which would be great. Because you're missing certain things, guess what they have to do before they're willing to make a reservation? They have to ask you. Why is that bad? Because that takes time, effort, energy. They may not want to ask you. They may want to get in, get out, right? Hop in the store, get your thing, leave. Instant book for a reason. What I'm saying is not understanding that, meaning understanding that your listing, your advertising, your what you say is your first line of customer service to cut down on questions and your time from booking, from view to reservation. Not understanding that means they have to ask you a question, which now means you have additional communication that you are actually receiving that you probably don't need to receive, simply because, hey, are there enough plates? Because there's actually 8 of us, like your listing says. Do you have them? Are there any plates? Do we need to bring that ourselves? What about forks, knives? I see 6 glasses, but are there more? Like, can only 6 of us have coffee? Because your place says 8, right? These things matter. And because while they're asking, here's what happens. They submit the question. This question comes over. They wait for their answer. This is the equivalent of standing in line. How long will they stand in line before they choose a different register, AKA checkout stand, AKA another host who already has answered that question, similarly priced, and often could be more money, but their photos answer all their common questions that they might have like that. And you know what ends up happening? They book with that person because their questions are already answered because they had to have something and that person got the reservation. And then you finally get back to them and they're like, sorry, we already made our reservation. And you're like, man, this Airbnb thing doesn't work. No, you're not working it right. You're being beat. You're not competing properly. That's what's happening. And that's how you end up getting what's left over. And that's assuming you have a communication system that responds quickly. Because I know ours and those that we apprentice, their communication responds within 7 minutes, 24/7 a day, 24/7. Which allows them to get that reservation because they're fighting at every level for the customer. They're not just putting some furniture together in a room, taking some photos, using their cell phone and going, so glad I was able to do that for like $2,000, man. All those people who I heard spent more money, I don't know what they were doing. Nope, you're right. You did spend less money to set it up, but you spend more money in vacancy. And that's the trade-off for not understanding, not knowing what you don't know. as I said before, and at the beginning of this today, not knowing what you don't know can, has, and always will hurt you. It is very expensive, to say the least. And most importantly, it's worth paying for. Limit your risk. That's why you buy insurance. So you think of this, start thinking of training and education and apprenticeship as insurance against ignorance. And you get to cash your policy in every time you can ask a question and get a new perspective and help with getting direction on what it is you should do. And more importantly, or just as importantly, what you shouldn't do, even when it looks like you should. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us today. If I've said something that, encouraged you, helped you, or would help another entrepreneur, and especially those of you on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that like button, share button, do it so that they can benefit too, right? And most importantly, if you desire to begin to build cash flow and you're like, man, I got no real estate experience. Okay, great. Didn't ask you that. You desire to build cash flow because you want to build that legacy and you've always thought maybe I could, and is now the right time? The answer is yes, now is the right time. Go to CashFlowDiary.com/application. Answer all the questions as if your opportunity depended on it, because it kind of does. We review all those answers. So those of you who just type in nonsense, we understand how to hit the delete button. Okay. But ultimately, we want to help those of you who are sincere. So it helps us filter those others out. And hey, hopefully those answers will earn you a consultation. And when that consultation does come through, for those of you that it comes through for, pick up, answer, because we're here to help. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.